Typing coordinates in the dynamic input for a second point will always be considered as a relative value entry. This is in reference from the last point. The first point is always an absolute value entry and reference from the UCS. So the first point corner which we use is 10, 10. So this is an absolute value entry. So it reference from the UCS 10x and then 10y. And for the second corner, 410, 287 is a relative value entry in reference from 1010 point. So from 1010 point, it moved 410 units to the right and 287 units going to the y direction. So in a way, locating coordinate 410 to 87. Please bear this in mind when using coordinates and typing them in dynamic input. For the meantime, let's delete first the second rectangle. So I'll just type E since it's already selected and then enter. Let's create another rectangle. So type REC, enter. For the first point, click anywhere near your first rectangle. So I'll just click here maybe. And then for the second corner, type again 420, 297. Enter. Again, typing coordinates in a dynamic input. For the first point, it is in absolute value coordinate. And for the second point, it's a relative value entry coordinates. Okay, and let's check. Let's select the rectangle. So click on the rectangle and then right click on your mouse, and then let's check on the properties. Okay, properties could also be accessed using control 1. Okay, but for me it's much more convenient using the right click. So it's indicated in the properties palette that it's a polyline. Okay, but our concern here is the current vertex 1, this one, the origin of our rectangle, and it is currently defined by AutoCAD using the world coordinate system to be located at 483 point something vertex X and 49 point something for the Y coordinate or value. Okay, so that's how AutoCAD define points for objects in your drawing. Also, you could check the coordinates via the status bar. So go to customization and then check on coordinates. Okay, so click and then check, and you would notice here a new status on your status bar, which are X, Y, Z coordinates. Okay, so it tracks the location of your cursor. So whenever you move your cursor, it's locating where it is situated based on the world coordinate system. So let's check again, for example, the first vertex of the second rectangle, and it coincides with the properties. Okay, 483 and then 49. And let's check the coordinate for the upper corner. That's the value for this coordinate in terms of world coordinate system. So you may leave this on your status bar for your sake of tracking your cursor, but for me, I don't like it seeing it there. Okay, so just uncheck it. It's just for the demonstrating the preciseness of AutoCAD in locating your geometries. For now, let's close first the properties, object properties, and press escape to unselect the second rectangle. And let's create another rectangle. Okay, so this is how we practice in AutoCAD, by repetitive commands, and that's the way you get acquainted with the commands. So type REC again and then enter. Again, for the first point, click anywhere again on your drawing area. So I'll just click here, and this time, instead of typing directly on my dynamic input, I'll type on the command line itself. Okay, so I'll hover my cursor towards the command line and then click on the command line and type my coordinates. So I'll type for the second corner, so 420, 297. And again, something is wrong. Okay, again, that is because of both absolute value entry and relative value entries. Okay, so when typing coordinates directly in the command line window for any point, it will be considered as an absolute value entry, of course in reference from the UCS. Okay, so in order to have a relative value entry, if you are typing directly on the command line, you must precede the coordinate with the at symbol. Example, at 420, 297. Okay, so let's try creating another rectangle. So REC, enter. So I'll click anywhere again, so here, and then I'll use again the command prompt or command line window to input my coordinate. This time I'll type at and then 420, 297. Enter. Okay, so the at symbol is a symbol or a prompt for AutoCAD that at or from the last point. So at 420, from the last point, I will move 420 units to the X and then 297 units to the Y direction. Okay, so at means from the last point. So you would see here the convenience of using the dynamic input rather than directly inputting your coordinates to the command prompt window. And for me, I always use my dynamic input for my convenience. So it's your choice if you want to type in the dynamic input directly or onto the command line window itself. But for me, I find it much more convenient using the dynamic input. But bear in mind that typing directly coordinates in the dynamic input for the second point, it will always be considered as a relative value entry.